to the RunRX podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running.
Welcome back to the RunRX podcast. I'm your host, Coach Caroline, and I'm here with Coach Valerie. Hey, Coach, how is it going this week? What's been going on?
Well, it's been a really good week. We've got 4 people right now training for a marathon in the membership. And last night, they all came on a live Zoom with me. And it was just coincidence that they just all happened to be there. And what's interesting is anyone that trains for distance events, if you've ever signed up for a marathon or even a 5K, just a race itself, there's so much preparation, mental preparation, physical preparation that goes with it. And so for us at RunRX, I'm always like, okay, well, my goal is to take out the challenge of running because, really first and foremost, you're running. And when you know how to run and what you should do during your run, it really takes so much stress off the run. Then you can plan what you're going to wear, what you're going to eat, the other parts of running.
Exactly.
So what was funny, though, is last night, and the best part about when you train for something like a marathon, especially if you have come through us, we're speaking a language of movement, right, guys, with running. And this is really neat. So I had the 4 people training for the marathon, and then I had someone that has just started with us this week, brand new member. And so I said, this is so good because especially when you're training for a long distance race, we get so caught up in the racing and the distance and the mileage and just getting out and running that sometimes the only thing that brings us back to kind of the basics is when something goes out or something doesn't feel good. So, oh gosh, Valerie, I could feel like at mile 9, my calf was getting a little tight. Or, hey, I could feel when I got to certain place, it got harder for me to stay at this pace. So what I said to them is every time you go back and you go back to the foundation of running and reset your running, you'll be amazed at what was limiting you was just you kind of lost the perception a little bit of the run.
Right.
So, right? And
yeah, exactly.
What's a challenge is, and I hear this a lot, so I want to address this as well. So people say to me a lot, it sounds to me like you're trying to make everybody move a certain way. And shouldn't we all be kind of moving our own way? Like, isn't running so natural that we should just put on our shoes and go running?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to make us all move, like a certain way? And then I'm going to go back in time a little bit. So I'm going to answer that question in a strange way. But I used to teach aerobics, or people don't say that anymore. But I'm from the 90s. It started in 1990. It's group fitness classes, and it's basically choreographed. Like I would make up the whole routine, obviously before the class, and then I would take these people through basically a workout routine, right? And it was consisted of several movements. And in the beginning, if you'd never been to my class before, say it was a step class. Well, in the beginning, I would say to you, okay, today, all I really want you to do is step up, up, down, down. Like, don't worry about going off to the side and adding any extra movements, or don't even worry about your arms. Let's keep your arms kind of relaxed by your side or reach forward and back. So I would give them something really simple so they could start to feel the movement, right? And then, you could pretty quickly, people would pick up on it. But the interesting part is you've got everybody kind of following along, right? So you go to this class and you follow along to somebody telling you what to do the whole class. Like I never shut up the whole time. Step, knee, step down, step right. That's So when I started to run, and I did this before I was a runner, guys. So when I went outside to run or whatever, when I first started running, I was like, what's the step? Like, what are
my steps?
What's the movement for running? And really people couldn't answer that question for me. I went to the running shoe store and bought running shoes from the running shoe store. I was going to be very, very professional about this. And what the guy told me then was I needed to push off my back leg and then reach with my front. Well, here I am a fitness instructor And all I do is repeat exercises and do choreography. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the best pusher and reacher. I'm going to get this running thing down. So I literally was like really trying to push and really trying to reach. Well, then I totally got injured.
Yeah.
And so I was still in the mindset though, was like, there's got to be a movement. And I wasn't the only one injured. Everybody I talked to was hurt. Like it was kind of a rite of passage.
Yeah.
know?
And that's what I was going to say. When you tell people you're injured, they're probably like, yeah, we all go through it. Right. It was just like not a big deal.
Yeah. And, you know, by the way, when I first started teaching aerobics, it was the same story. There's a lot of injuries, by the way, in fitness.
Really?
And I got really bad. Yeah, I got really bad shin splints. And back then, most of us were teaching on concrete floors. And sometimes sometimes they put carpet so hard on your shins. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, you'll just get used to it. I mean, it was just like, oh, and then I was like, okay, like I just accepted that. And then we got the wood floors and saved all of our shins. Yeah. It does make a difference what you're on. Anyway, the same idea though, we accepted injury as part of the movement. So running was the same. Like everybody was hurting or had been hurt. Oh yeah, you know, I've been through shin splints, plantar fasciitis, IT band. And I thought, come on, this is crazy. And so anyway, lucky for me, I found this book that was like, no, there is a way to move in running. And so the funny part is coming from that group fitness background, I was like, oh, there's only one move. See, I was doing two moves. I was pushing and reaching. I was taking my back foot and pushing back because in my mind, that was supposed to propel me forward. And then when you kicked your foot way out, it was going to extend your stride. Yeah, because that's what the guy at the running store said. And at that point in time, he was a fast runner, so why wouldn't I believe him, right? So when I first learned this movement of running, I didn't judge it, I accepted it. And that's important, guys, to understand, because when people come into RunRX, they don't even realize what their running action was. Like most people, when they go running, they don't think, here's the action I'm going to do, because they use the word running as the action. Right. Well, I'm just going running. If you stop someone and said, what action are you doing when you run? I'm not sure what answers we should do that. What answers would we get? Yeah,
I think you get a lot of pushing, you know, placing one foot in front of the other. You know, I think we get a lot of that, but we should ask that. That would be interesting in a poll.
Yeah. And then what I tell people is when you learn, so we teach the running action, it's called pulling. And what's so cool is you already do it. You just don't know you do it. Right. It's like it is the natural reflexive response of running that you're born with. Like it's a blueprint. We're born with it. Kids do it naturally. You know, when they first start to toddle, they're just running along. And so what the greatest part is all you're doing is kind of rediscovering what you used to do already. Like you already used to do this. Now you're just going to do it again and take away and let go, right, of everything you don't need to do. So when you do the Zoom with me and you get to actually like, you know, move with me, it brings me back to my old aerobics days. But I was telling Caroline, what I notice is it's the awkwardness a little bit, right, of like learning a movement. Yeah. Like I've never been like, I don't know how to dance. So the first time if I went to a dance class, I would feel so weird. Right. However, I would respect the teacher because obviously they're teaching this class. Like, has anyone ever done Zumba? I did a Zumba class. It was hysterical. I was terrible at it, but I had a blast, you know? Yeah. And the lady was like, all right, your career is not in Zumba, but here's a movement you can at least do. Right. And I just had fun with it. So with running, we've never seen it as like, I don't know, a dance move, if you will, but a movement. And so what's fun is if when you're teaching someone a movement or a group of people, when they're opening their mind to that idea of the movement, it's so neat because one, it helps you let go of like inefficiencies in your movement. Right. You know what I mean? Like if I'm only doing one movement and that's my goal and that's my focus, I'm only going to keep getting better at doing that movement. And then I'm not thinking of those other movements. So they go away. You know, when you realize you don't need to reach, you don't need to push, you only need to go up and lift, it's an awakening. You're like, and then your body's like, but there's also struggle because again, like I said, I'm not a good dancer either. So sometimes learning, we all feel a little bit, awkward. And so what was fun, I think, or I hope it all came together, but the woman that was brand new got to see several other runners that had been going through the same thing. And there was a point where everybody was moving correctly and really well, and not going anywhere, like everyone in place feeling it. And that's what's so, and to me, I tell people, it's hard to explain that to runners because we only think of running as movement forward, traveling movement. Right. I guess I should say that. I'm sorry, traveling movement. And when you realize if you would learn the movement, the action of the movement of the running, you can learn in place. And then you can pull in place, run in place, basically. And then even just learning that little bit of what it takes to start traveling, because it's really subtle, but you're working with other people. Like they don't have to look at each other. I'm the one looking at them. It's so neat, though. It was just such a great feeling for them and also for me when you start to realize they're connecting with their movement. And this is what I wanted to get out about this, was that they're all connecting with their movement. A lot of people overthink it, right? We have a few overthinkers, but the reality is once they really, this is just so neat when they go out to run their marathon, whatever the distance you're going to run, when you realize, oh, I know how to run, your confidence in your running goes up, your ability goes up, all of it goes up, right? But it's that acceptance that first it's okay to feel a little silly or look a little goofy because I'm learning something new. And we don't realize things like, I already thought I knew how to run, or even I didn't know I was stuck to the ground, right? So many of our runners are like scared. It's just not scared. What's the word you would use? Like you don't realize how much you want to be supported.
Apprehensive. They're well, it is fear, but it's also a little, there's the apprehension. You know what I mean? You're expecting it to hurt. I'm not sure the exact word you're looking for, but I get what you're talking about. Hopefully our audience does too.
Yeah. I mean, so the fun part is, I guess my point is like, if when we talk about the running and the movement of running, every time I do a Zoom, and every time I do a clinic, or used to do clinics more, but when you really get people together to start feeling the movement of running, it makes them all want to go running. Because there's no way, it's so hard to explain though, that when you're not running, when you can only think about the movement really when you're in place, right? Because when you're out running, guys, we just want you to run. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing too, that when you watch people run and it looks so smooth and it looks so natural and it looks so effortless, realize there's a lot going on. But when you get to a place where you know what kind of your job is or what the movement's supposed to feel like, then that's why it looks so smooth, because there's so much work they've let go of. And anyway, I guess my main thing was trying to get people to feel okay with, I'm going to feel awkward a little bit, but having fun with, there is actually a movement to learn.
Right. And that's what we're always trying to impress upon people is that, yes, that whole, I appreciate the idea of just go out and run, lace up your shoes and go. But really, guys, everything has a movement, has a series of movements, even standing and squatting and, the things we do in our normal daily lives. That's how we blow our backs out by simply, changing the laundry, right? Going from the washer to the dryer. So that's the point of RunRX, though,
The challenge is in most other movements. So if we even say sitting, standing, and then exercise movements like squatting, picking something up, there's a standard. Like most people at this point know that to pick something up, they should bend their knees and get close to the objects, not just bend over and pick it up, right? Things like that. And basically it's for injury prevention, and it's to be correct in the movement. Like when you squat, you're supposed to hinge back. Well, challenge with running is there's no standard. You're just told to go run, and then you should be good at it.
There's no standard between the general community, but there is a standard, as we know, with RunRX. And that's what we're trying to put out there. So we want you to realize there is a standard. And kind of to wrap it all up, I think the squat is a great example. Is everybody knows the phrase, have heard the phrase, if you've ever moved a box, lift with your legs, right? Don't lift with your back. But what do we all do? We bend over right away. It happens. So we get it, guys, that you're going to just go out and run and not understand the movement you're doing. But that's where we're here to help. And that's why we want you to come in and get on these Zooms with Valerie and be part of the program. And you're probably wondering, but Caroline, how do I get on the program? Well, get on our mailing list, because what we do is we are now kind of open again to a ongoing sort of, I'm not going to call it it's an ongoing immersion, but we only open it after certain periods. Like, we don't want to take a rush of 200 students. So we kind of let the students drip through so that we can spend the time that she's talking about with you to learn that movement before the next new person comes in. So if you want to be part of that list and you want to be, figure out, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get in now so I can get it going. Get on our list. Go to runrxquiz.com or go to our website, runrx.fit, and you can see the quiz right there. And get on our list. And then the next time it opens up, you'll get word on it. You'll get an email, and you'll stay on our list, and you'll know when it's right for you, and you can come in, and we would love to have you. So I hope, if you haven't already, you will subscribe and give us a 5-star review and share this with your running friends and help them understand why you think running properly is so important, that there is a standard of movement, and you'll join the RunRX immersion, as well as part of our team and part of our group, and be part of our movement. So thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRX podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.